We were in Ohio in May for the wedding of our nephew. The ceremony was finished. We had eaten some hors d'oeuvres. It was time to go into the reception hall for the meal. I fully expected to be sitting with our children and their families. And when we got in there, looking for our table, I discovered that that's not where Dave and I were to sit. We looked further and further and further until we found our seats. And it was beside my sister and brother-in-law, the parents of the groom. I was surprised and I was honored. I had not expected to be sitting there. And had I expected to sit there and then not have that be our place, can you imagine how I may have felt? I would have been disappointed, hurt, as we moved back instead of sitting there. I felt honored because I had the opportunity to share that very important time with my sister. Jesus told the parable that Mark read about that wedding banquet and the desire to sit in a place of honor, because there were Pharisees, good church people, who thought they were better than other people. They wanted those places of honor. They sought them out. They drew attention to themselves and promoted themselves instead of promoting God and leading people to God. They also did it at the expense of other people. Last week, Pastor Randy pointed out and challenged us to be ambassadors for Christ, to shine the light. And the choir said, light a candle for someone you care for. We are to light those candles, to be that light for another, to bring Jesus to others as we represent Jesus in the world. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, I would say we can learn something from Nehemiah. His main purpose initially going to Jerusalem was to build that wall so that the people who had come back would be safe. The wall had been built, and now there were some people living there. They had to build houses for them. But Nehemiah didn't know who they were. And so he took a census. He found out who those people were. He gathered them together. He found out the tribes they were from and the individuals that they represented. And he organized them to make the city a place where eventually Jesus would go to worship, go to teach, go to preach, and to go outside of the walls to be crucified for his people. Nehemiah had the responsibility of making sure that that place would be available for God at a later date. But not only for that later date, but for all the time in between for the people of Israel. He found out who they were. And something that I have appreciated about Pastor Randy is that he has come here and has gotten to know the people of the church and is working at continuing to know us and to love us. But not only the people of the church, he has also learned the community and is seeing the needs that are here within our community. We too can be looking within the church and looking in the community to know each other and to build relationships with ourselves and with our neighbors. Well, on Thursday night, I got a glimpse of a visual way that I could do that. We were here for bell choir practice, and Katie was trying to direct us, and she had had her eyes dilated for an eye exam. And she said, "It's like there's halos everywhere." And as quick as could be, Carol Herbertson said, "Well, it's us." Well, you know better than that we really don't have halos, and we're not those holy people that would imply. But if we are looking at each other as though we have halos, we are seeing with the eyes of Jesus. I find great comfort in knowing that Jesus knows me and sees me as I am, imperfections and sins, as well as the gifts that he has given me. And as he sees me, so I want to see others. Imagine if we could all see not only the people in the church, but the people in the neighborhood with halos, the eyes of Jesus. We would see that each person is God's special person, and that there is no one too lost to love, nor too low to serve. In the upper room last Sunday, Matt Stephen, an Arkansas school principal, shared this devotional. He said, "As a school principal, I used to unconsciously place children into two categories. Lovely, those children who are no trouble, and unlovely, those children who are difficult." One particular first grade student was sent to my office nearly every day because his behavior was so out of control. I began to dislike this child because he spent so much time in my office disrupting my routine. One day, his mother failed to pick him up from school, so I drove him home. As we pulled into a rundown trailer park, he pointed to a windowless trailer where garbage littered the yard and the door was wide open on a freezing cold day. This was his home. His mother appeared at the door and ushered him in. Stunned, I drove away. How could I discount this child who did not have the comfort of a dry, warm place to live? Doesn't he need me more than others? From that day forward, I considered all children to be God's children, not lovely or unlovely. God holds us responsible to take care of each one of his children. When I treat any child carelessly, I am treating Christ carelessly. When I treat each child as a beloved child of God, I am honoring Christ. And I would say it goes beyond our treatment of children to our treatment of each individual person within the world. Now, we are blessed in this church to have a wonderful opportunity to do what Jesus said to do when he told us to invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind, the hurting, the lonely, those who are in need. He said, don't invite those who can pay you back, who can reciprocate your hospitality, that you can get something from them. But invite those who cannot reciprocate. And come to the banquet. We have people who come as we offer food for the body and for their spirit. We have opportunity to fellowship. We have opportunity to build relationships that give us the opportunity then to pray for them when they have a need. That relationship develops trust. Trust develops the ability to be vulnerable. And when they are vulnerable, we can share love in a powerful way. In that time, we can also learn that people who have much or people who have little are very much the same. We all love our families. We all have concern that they grow up to be people that can live and grow and love. There is great love that I see in people that gather together. Also, we all, no matter who we are or what we have a need to have a purpose in life. I know a woman, I've known her for a long time. She was in the hospital following a fall, and I visited her on several occasions. And she is one who has had a very difficult life. There's been estrangement from her parents, from her siblings, from her own children. She's had a rough life, limited monetarily, emotionally, intellectually. But she has a church that has given her a job to do. Every month, she has a table that has some things on it to be distributed at a food giveaway. And she has it all organized. This woman that many of us would think she had little to offer, for we would see the stereotypical homeless person, plain face, bedraggled hair. But that's not what Jesus sees, and that's not how she sees herself when she's doing this important task. Now, there are 2 children that come regularly to this, and she has a little ritual that she does with them. They are a brother and a younger sister. And when they come to her table, she says, "Can I give you a hug?" She gives the boy a hug and a kiss on the cheek. And then the little girl, she gives a hug and a kiss on the cheek. She says to them, "Where does that come from?" And the little boy says, "It comes from you." And his sister pipes up, "No, no, no, it comes from Jesus." And as she tells this story, her eyes light up, her whole face lights up. And she is beautiful as she is sharing this love of Jesus with others. No one too lost to love, nor too low to serve. I suspect you see many lonely people who are looking for meaning in life. Some are right here in this church, many are in our community. Glennon Melton, a blogger, writes about parenting, but mostly about living in a messy, difficult world. She told an incredible story about her son's 5th grade teacher that within 4 days, it had been shared over 3 million times. It's about a woman who is going out of her way to include everyone and recognize the value of each of her students. Every Friday afternoon, Glennon writes, my son's teacher asks her students to take out a piece of paper and write down the names of 4 children with whom they'd like to sit in the following week. The children know that these requests may or may not be honored. She also asks the students to nominate one student whom they believe has been an exceptional classroom citizen that week. And every single Friday afternoon, after the students go home, that teacher takes out those slips of paper, places them in front of her, and studies them. She looks for patterns. Who is not getting requested by anyone else? Who doesn't even know who to request? Who never gets noticed enough to be nominated? Who had 1 million friends last week and none this week? You see, this teacher is not looking for a new seating chart or exceptional citizens. She is looking for lonely children. She's identifying the little ones who are falling through the cracks of this class's social life. She is discovering whose gifts are going unnoticed by their peers. It's like mining for gold, the gold being those little ones who need a little help, who need adults to step in and teach them how to make friends, how to ask others to play, how to join a group, or how to share their gifts with others. But as she said, the truth comes. It comes out on those safe, private little sheets of paper. So the teacher explained this simple, ingenious plan. I stared at her with my mouth hanging open. How long have you been using this system? Ever since Columbine, she said. Every single Friday afternoon since Columbine. There are children. There are adults. People of all ages who seem lost, who are lonely, who feel unloved, who feel left out. There are people who do not know Jesus. I challenge you to think of someone who may be in that category of being too lost, seemingly too lost to love, or too low to serve. Is it someone in your workplace, a neighbor, someone on the streets? What can you do to help them feel less lonely, to know that they are loved, to introduce them to Jesus? Now, I am assuming that prayer will be a part of your outreach to them. But I'm also wondering, what candle will you light? What candle of hope and invitation to offer the love of Christ? You know, you are able, through the power of Jesus who died for you and who died for that person, for he has died for us all, out of love. You are able to share the love of Christ with another. Let us pray as we sing, Jesu, Jesu.